Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Wolf Digest. I'm your host, Amaras.
And I'm your co-host, Terkanil. And while it's been much longer than we wanted to, due to delays, sickness, technical problems, I can own the first two of those. So let's just quickly talk about the delays. It's called PAX. And the sickness is called PAX Pox. One part's fun, one part's not.
Well, fortunately, it held off until you made it back from PAX.
Yeah.
But
shortly after, but
I've had you in quarantine, so I don't get sick, at the very least.
Yeah. Or littles, etc.
Yeah.
I've even segregated myself from work, so. But PAX was, nice and fun. There wasn't a whole lot going on. Nothing really, big being shown off. Especially if you compare it to and for size of convention, it was relatively small. I mean, there was a lot of companies there showing off things between indie companies showing off little games they got, board game companies showing off various board games, a couple of the random companies showing off accessories like headsets and so on. And then there was if you look at the floor map. You can see how things were laid out. Some of the bigger players like Sony, Capcom, Bandai, Discord, and Mixer were the two big hangouts for everyone. But if you actually look at how it actually looks like from some pictures, you have one end where it's queue area and it's empty. There's just nothing there.
Yeah.
Then you have everything crammed into this little space that would fit into a very small portion of our convention center here in Salt Lake. And then the other end is all tables for tournaments, and there's an area for LANs. They actually had a LAN set up there. Yeah. It had an area where you check out board games and sit and playing with friends over there. And then there was another area that actually had console tournaments going on. But that there was basically it. The only thing that I really got out of it was they talked about announcing a new version of a game called Clink, now Clink Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated, which is based on the Penny Arcade D&D streaming group, Acquisitions Incorporated, as well as a venture with Wizards of the Coast for an official D&D manual. And those should both be coming out later this year. So that was the only thing I really got out of it, other than, hanging out with a lot of people.
Well, that's the fun part, the social aspect. You get to hang out with your favorite streamers or other people that you normally chat with on a stream, or even just in your social circles that you don't get to see very often. We got a few people in our guild that are actually down in Dallas and San Antonio area, so.
Yeah. But, that's what caused most of our delays. But moving on from that, we have quite a bit of a docket, so we're going to try to run through as much of this as we can, because we got a lot. I mean, run by much. Let's go. So first things first, we've got some news about, the Epic Store, some news about foldable phones, Samsung, YouTube, a reminder to check your passwords, some information about Ryzen, hard drives, and then some gaming news at the end.
Always a fun time.
We're lumping that because we got a few things down there. So
okay, let's see how fast we can rush through this, right?
So let's start at the top here. It was announced yesterday, or was it today? Somewhere in the last 18 hours now, that a few games were going to become exclusives on the Epic Store. Those including what are those stupid games again?
Walking Dead: The Final Season, Division 2, Supergiant Games Hades.
That's what I was thinking. Division. Oh, and let's not forget Metro Exodus.
Well, that was the big one for today. It had been on pre-sale on Steam since its launch or announcement, really. And as of today, they sent a letter to Steam, and Steam issued a notice out to everyone saying that Metro Exodus will be discontinued on Steam due to the publisher's decision to make the game exclusive to another store. Obviously, Valve is very sour about this whole deal. There's actually two camps that this is forming. You got one camp that is on Epic's side going, Steam is an expensive platform. They gouge however many dollars, it's currently 30%, to distribute the game on their platform. And then you got the other side that is like, well, I don't care if it was even cheaper on Steam, on Epic, I would still buy it on Steam at a more expensive rate just to either have all their games in one place or to not have to deal with Epic, one or the other. But those seem to be the two camps that I see just kind of reading through some forums and on Reddit and whatnot. The big thing that it really affects us as consumers with is a platform choice. These exclusivity deals where you can get it at one place and not another. It's been a big problem, especially with like Assassin's Creed. It's always been out on its own. You couldn't get that in Steam in some forms, at least immediately. And I think they should really compete on price. Maybe have the price of the game plus a store sales tax of sorts. The 30% markup to have it on Steam. And if you want it on Steam, you pay that little bit of a markup. Or if you want it on Epic, you don't have to pay that big of a markup for Epic. I mean, it's been working fairly well for games that you could purchase from places like Green Man Gaming that gives discounts, or say from a Walmart.com or something like that. You could go and buy these games, not at the full $9.99 figures that you would see on Steam for launch and things like that, but get them at a sizable discount, 27% off pre-launch kind of stuff even. I think that would be a better way to have them compete, really.
The only thing that's kind of annoying about having games locked to a certain platform or store set up in this way, at least in my opinion, is now you have to manage multiple groups of games and potentially multiple friend groups, because now you have to have friends on both those groups if you want to play. So if you have a friend who bought their game on a different game or a store, is there going to be any allowance for interactivity? If not, then what do? Buy the game again?
Well, I just recently actually had to add my wife as a friend on Epic so that we could play the Anthem demo together. That's how little I've actually interacted with her on that platform, because she's usually on one of several other gaming platforms. And that's exactly what it is. I would like a coherent experience, play the game, and Discord has really been taking over that role, but now they have their own game store too.
Well, at least in the regard of the EA store, that's EA games only, and that's the only place you're going to get them.
Of course.
So that's the kicker there.
Yeah, we dealt with that with Mass Effect, and having to have your saves not really flow through if you bought, say, Mass Effect 1 on the EA store and it was tied to EA, and now you could buy Mass Effect 2 from Steam. You don't get to carry through that saved game without some work. So,
yeah. And it hasn't been quite as friendly.
No, it's long gone are the days where you could just get a game, install it, and play it, right?
Unfortunately, Steam took over.
Yeah, Steam, for better or for worse, has pretty much dominated the platforms, and I think they're going to have to make some adjustments now that these big heavy hitters like Epic are really pushing their own stores and to divide themselves away from Steam.
And don't forget that these three that we've talked about now, so Valve with their Steam, Epic with Epic Store and the Discord store, we also have GOG.
Yeah.
Cannot leave that particular one out because that one's still a hitter. Even if people tend to forget about them, it's like, no, they're sitting over there and no one wants to talk about them because they
because
like to fly unchallenged.
Well, their games are DRM unlocked. You don't
Exactly
require their store in order to play those games.
You download it, you're done.
Exactly. And that's always been a good thing. And they have actually done some remarkable efforts to make sure those games are still viable on newer OSs. I think they deserve a little bit of notice for that at the very least.
Yep. But moving along.
The one good thing that came out of Epic moving their game off of Steam is it came with a price drop. It's now listed at $50 instead of probably $60 or $69.99, whatever they might have had it on Steam. I don't know because I don't like to pre-order games. It's just kind of a thing I would recommend everyone do. Just don't pre-order your games and buy it on launch if you feel it's worth it. But read reviews, make sure that it's not buggy, and
it's become a gamble with a lot of developers lately.
Yeah, put the developers to task and show them that you're willing to buy the game, but they have to make it a viable game, and they have to put forth that effort.
But that's that.
Yep.
So moving on from this up. So going on to a little bit of tech news. One of the things that we've been seeing that's been, floating both from CES as well a little bit thereafter is the idea of foldable phones.
Yep.
And apparently this has caused RAZR to want to come back into the game because everyone, remembers the RAZR, flip phone.
Oh yeah.
So apparently we're going to potentially see another RAZR phone.
And
along with everyone else now wanting to do foldable devices.
Yeah. And this one, based on the patent that they filed, shows a full touchscreen that can fold right down the middle. This will be a very interesting device. It will probably be very akin to our old phones of yesteryear, but with a full touchscreen. So hopefully this will help the people that still wanted the smaller iPhone 4 kind of phone that would fit in their pockets or not really get the screen scratched up, because this will clamshell and protect the actual screen by doing so, or make it worse by getting sand in between the two halves, right? And then scratching both sides of this fun stuff, right? I don't know about you, but my flip phone of yesteryear, that screen would always just get junk all over it, So it was
mine was fine.
Kind of a crapshoot for me.
But in other news, Samsung has decided they want to improve cameras and are making an acquisition.
Allegedly. The rumor has it, reportedly, that they're in advanced talks to acquire Core Photonics, which is known for having a camera that can go into a smartphone and zoom up to like 25x. They're going to be demonstrating a 10x optical zoom camera at MWC this next month. So something to keep an eye out for, especially if Samsung actually seals the deal. I think it would be very interesting to get a nice telephoto zoom, not just the 2x or something that you might see on the next gen phones, but to get it like a 10x. That's pretty impressive.
It's really interesting to see how that ends up playing out. But hopefully that'll give us something to chat about, next month.
Of course. So for the next one, we actually have some YouTube news. They announced that they're planning to ban dangerous pranks, such as the Bird Box and Tide Pod fads of late.
Ding dong, the dumb is dawn.
Let's hope. I mean, some of the things that they did, like the ALS challenge, those are good. They raise awareness. They're fairly harmless. You dump a bucket of ice water, a little bit of shock, nothing too bad. But you drop a condom on your head full of water, that can cause problems. I've seen people have problems with that. Obviously, this Bird Box challenge, we actually had somebody here recently, last week, get into an accident and have a whole mess of cops dealing with them just about 30 minutes north of here doing the Bird Box challenge. Ugh. Some people
For the
will never
record,
learn.
Bird Box Challenge. Drive blind. That was
Blindfolded.
tested on
Blindfolded.
close enough. This was tested on Mythbusters. Do not try this at home.
Yes. And if you haven't seen the episode, go look it up. Mythbusters Driving Blind. I'm sure you'll be able to find it somewhere out there. Or at least the season and episode number you can go watch on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, wherever it's being hosted. I don't know.
But yeah, it's good to know that this level of dumb is being removed from at least the easiest access.
Exactly. Especially since a lot of the YouTube content moves over into the meme world or into actual real life. I mean, they're also talking about problems with perceived danger and serious physical injury. So, like if you do a prank that's a home invasion or a drive-by shooting fake, those are also going to get flagged by this, and it'll cause a strike on your channel, potentially close your channel out. So we got to be very careful, I guess. And they also say something that can cause severe emotional distress or something so bad it could leave a child traumatized for life. You know, there's several YouTube channels out there, vlogs and whatnot, where it's just parents terrorizing their younger children. And I mean, obviously the kids would have to be in on it for years and years of running this gag, but if they're not, you know, or if somebody sees that and then tries to do their own channel doing the same thing, that could be bad.
Yeah, some of the things that we see on there, while it seemed, well, on one hand, it could be a prank. On the other, it could just be a very excellent level of acting.
And most of it is actually. Even a lot of the vloggers will say that who they are on their vlog is not who they are. They are acting for their vlog. They become somebody else. Somebody maybe more open and willing to talk about things and share, or any other number of things that they aren't really in real life. I mean, there's a lot of therapeutic benefits to it, but obviously there's a lot of acting on YouTube is what it ends up being. We try to be genuine here, but I wouldn't say that we're not acting ourselves in some way, shape, or form too.
Yeah, you can tell like our voices. Well, no, we actually do get confused and yeah, anyway.
Yeah, we definitely ramble and move off on tangents, and that's really who we are. We like to talk about this stuff, and we just go on and on. So let's move on. So,
yep, we'll make this one brief.
The collection one, we have the collection one breach. This is 773 million accounts for sale on the dark web. That's 772.9 million unique email addresses and 21.2 million unique passwords, with a combination of 1.16 billion unique combinations. So you could have the same email address 3 times in a row with different or the same passwords associated with it. Just depends. So this is out there. It's for sale. It's been for sale. There's a couple of tools out there, such as haveibeenpwned.com. You can punch in your email address here and see if your email address shows up on any of these various breaches, and especially the largest ones. And if you do show up on there and you haven't changed your password in the last year, you should do that. You can also punch in your password in their /passwords tool, and as safe as it can be, this is a white hat, supposedly, right? So you can punch a password into here. They don't really have a way to tie it to any accounts that you may have, so you're fairly safe in it. But if your password is highly unique and you punch it in here and it says that it's in the list somewhere, you should probably change it. So little bit of a high horse things there, but definitely rotate your passwords,
Better safe than sorry.
of course.
But
So,
going on from that,
even more
there was,
exciting epic news, right? Ryzen. Haha.
well, not necessarily epic because since it is Ryzen. But
Hey, it's not my fault they used a good word for their server CPUs.
so there's been some talk, further talk about what we could be seeing with the third gen Ryzen. And one of the things that came up was a SKU that appears to be a 12 core, 24 thread chip.
Yep. And there has been some additional development on decrypting these SKUs as well. So this 3 here stands for a third revision for this layout. The 2 is number of CPU dies, and then the 12 would be number of cores that are enabled. And then, of course, the W is 32 meg of L3 cache. So, interesting stuff. This definitely suggests a 2 die with a 12 core. And, of course, naturally, if you can have 6 of the 8 cores enabled, you can have 8 of the 8 cores enabled, right? So, naturally, 16 core. The other cool thing is the Infinity Fabric 2 that is tying all this together and having these chiplets come back to the IO die is going to be unlocked from the RAM. So your RAM speed will no longer affect your Infinity Fabric speed.
Overall system improvement.
I really hope so, because the Infinity Fabric with the short traces and all that has the potential to be extremely higher than 260 or 2666 megahertz or 3200 megahertz kind of stuff. And you could look up Ryzen 2 scale memory scaling and see that, well, actually we did show it on 2 episodes ago?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, because you and I had a discussion about it somewhat recently. But yeah, about 3200 megahertz, the improvements start to diminish, and at 3466, they're pretty much non-existent for inter-core communication on multi-threaded tasks. And so with Ryzen 1 and 2, you tried to shoot for, at minimum, in my opinion, a 3200 megahertz bit of RAM, if not even going to the 3466. Anything above that would be so diminished in its returns that it wouldn't justify the price increases. And of course, that's my personal opinion. You can draw your own conclusions. But I know for myself, I have 3200 megahertz RAM.
I think that's what I've got.
I definitely recommended it when you were asking. So
I think I was. Yeah.
So Zen 2, with all this stuff that they're doing to it, very likely has the real potential to be as fast as a 9900K for the 8-core cheap part. And I say cheap because it's lower mid-range. And when we're talking 12-core or 16-core at the same TDPs as the previous gen, it's entirely possible. There was a video recently out by Adore TV. If you haven't seen it, you should probably go and check it out as soon as you're done with this video. But he actually goes through a little bit of napkin math to show that it is possible to have a 12 core that's equivalent of their 8 core with the improvement in performance that Papermaster was saying that it would have. So definitely worth a look at.
But jumping really, at least for a short bit here, into
another controversial topic.
Yeah, so out of Ryzen into storage, we have what is called the Backblaze report, which describes a list of drives that they monitor and basically how many fail.
Yep. And they've been releasing this report for a few years now, and you can see back in 2016 they had an annual failure rate of 1.95%, and it's been steadily going down, 1.77 to 1.25 for 2018. And really, this is based off of their hardware. There's not a whole lot of detail that we have about it. They did have a presentation that they did back on the 24th. They had a private webinar of sorts that would go into these numbers more detailed, but the only thing we can really draw from this is that in their environment, their failure rates have been going down. Now, is that because the drives are being made better? Probably not. I think it's more the chassis that they're putting these in are improving so that they have less vibration, they have better airflow and cooling. I think that's more likely to contribute to the failure rate reduction than any like development of hard drive technology. You can also see each of the amounts of hard drives that they have in use versus the failure percentage. And the only stuff you can really draw from this for anything under the 10,000 drive mark is just some general loose numbers. It's almost too small of a sample size to draw any real definitive conclusions. But the ones that are like 14,000, 31,000, you can see that it's most likely that these 12 terabyte Seagates do have like a 1.39% failure rate in general in this particular environment. So you can expect to have that percentage of a failure rate if you have a batch of drives over a course of a year or 3 or however long they've been in service, which is also something they don't really tell us. So there's a lot of black
Unknown
box
factors.
Yeah, unknown factors that you should really take into account on the merit of these drives. I would just say maybe stay away from these 6 terabyte red drives or these particular 12 terabyte Seagates and maybe even the 14 terabyte Toshibas, and focus more on some of these other Seagates that have a extremely lower rate of failure on these numbers here, like this Seagate 6 terabyte, and something that's more in the average. But obviously, you know, this isn't something to say, oh, you should buy this brand of drive exclusively. It's more of a line of drives. Which tier of drive you want to buy?
Each size tier usually has a brand that does it better than the others, at least from what we've been seeing. And this kind of just, shows a little bit more on that.
Yeah.
But moving forward from that, a little while ago, I'll admit, again, we're catching up on some of the stuff we've missed.
Around the 19th.
There was an interview with the CEO of MSI. Now, we're not going to go through everything in here, but there was a couple things that we found kind of interesting. One of the items, for example, was down here saying how, as he saw it, the desktop, us folk in general, when it came to when we got processors, at least in the priority of silicon coming out, we're at the bottom.
Yeah. And they're not talking the i9 high-end desktop stuff. They're talking i5s, i3s, those kinds of things. But dealing with this shortage of CPU supply and MSI coming back and saying, hey, what's going on here? And, well, their response from Intel was that they focus on their high-end products when they have a shortfall, and they prioritize those high-end chips that they make more money off of, basically data center, and then mobile is second, and then desktop is last. So expect laptops and mobile devices to have more supply than your i5s or i3s. What it comes down to. Granted, they do expect this shortage to gradually work its way out and be much better in the second, primarily third quarters of this year, and pretty much be gone by the fourth quarter, assuming all goes well. I mean, TSMC just today had an issue where they had a tainted chemical, and they basically destroyed or had problems with 10,000 wafers. Granted, that's out of a 100,000 production in a month, so they maybe lost 3 days worth of time, and that was only for their 14 nanometer and 12 nanometer products. So anything can go wrong. Just ask Intel with their 10 nanometer shrink, right?
But there's other bits in there that might be interesting. So if you're interested, if you're like, I cannot talk today. There's other things you might find interesting in there. So you might want to go through and just read through that.
Yep.
It talks about other things about, like why MSI doesn't do much with AMD in their pre-builds, cost intervention with like a result of tariffs, how they're trying very hard to not be, up to appear as something like the next quoted Huawei or ZTE if you go and look at how that's played out with regards to quoted national security here in the U.S. and
nobody
so
wants to be banned from the U.S. like Huawei and ZTE. Always a bad thing.
As well as some of their, they also talk a little bit about some of their products that are specifically targeting that niche that Apple has with regards to, video and image development.
Yep.
So
they're making prosumer equipment, trying to get those fat margins that Apple's been banking on for the past umpteen years, right?
It's the only thing really, the biggest thing at this point is not the hardware. The only thing I really hear about whenever it comes to the Apple side of that is specific software suites, and primarily because those are what are taught in school.
Yeah.
That's it.
If you like Final Cut Pro, the MacBook for you. But other than that, you can pretty much make do with whatever platform you feel most comfortable with.
And there are plenty of products that can play that game just as well.
Yep. Just because that's what you learned at school doesn't mean that's the best platform out there.
But I say we talk about some gaming stuff now.
Oh yeah, Death Stranding.
You want to start Death Stranding? Okay.
Well,
let's hit that one then.
I know my wife is anticipating this game. She's definitely the more RPG oriented kind of person, so having a game like this where she can basically Mass Effect her way through a world is very appealing.
Well, there is also, Norman Reedus.
Well, yeah. You always need the eye candy, right? But this one is interesting in the fact that they actually brought in a developer from, Guerrilla Games co-founder and manager Herman Holtz tweeted he was so impressed with Death Stranding, while Horizon Zero Dawn director Mathis de Jong was left speechless by what he saw. Yeah, I mean, if the person who was directing Horizon Zero Dawn was left speechless by something about this game, probably the story and environment, that's pretty good, right?
You have to hope so.
I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn is a pretty awesome game, and to have the guy go, wow, this is comparable at the very least, let alone better, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the other bit of a leak that came out was about how it'll play. We don't know much about it, but if you look at the name Death Stranding, I mean, the goal of the game is to reconnect the world. And that's in quotes. So reconnect the world. How you go about doing that, anyone's guess, but you use a word like stranding, stranded. Reconnect the world. Yeah. It might be interesting. Hopefully it's got some good lore. With the word death, maybe it's dealing with the afterlife. Maybe it's dealing with spirits following you. Maybe it's undead because they pulled Norman Reedus and it's zombies. I don't know. They've had a lot of mystery about it.
My personal opinion is based on some of the information. It sounds like more of the world nearly died, and you were stranded, and you're now working to try to reconnect a world destroyed, a world stranded on the edge of death. That's my opinion.
Oh, we'll see how that plays out. We expect it to launch this year, but that's only because there's been some rumor about it, and some website, I think it was Best Buy, decided to go and put a placeholder for the game pre-order that marked it December 31st, 2019. And now everyone thinks that might be the launch date, which, no, it's just a placeholder. I bet you anything, it's just a placeholder.
Is that the U.S. Best Buy or the Canadian Best Buy?
I don't know.
Well, dang, you were supposed to know this part, because there was a lot of stuff that happened last year, and it was the Canadian Best Buy that screwed up.
Shh. Nah. It's supposed to come out pretty soon. I mean, if they're playtesting it in private demos like that, and why not? It's probably not that far off. Yeah. Let's put it for a summer release, shall we? Let's get some hope in here.
Well, then, how about we talk about Dragon Ball?
Oh, yeah.
So we had a couple of pieces hit about a Dragon Ball game, and we're not talking Fighter Z.
Yeah. I was reading the fact that they were going to be announcing some more information about it about a week ago, and I'm like, oh. They're like, yeah, we're going to go back to our roots kind of thing. And it's like, oh, I bet you anything they're doing the Vegeta and Namek saga. You're my witness. I said.
Yep.
Yeah, and sure enough, they came out with
technical problems.
Hey, shh. None of that. And sure enough, they come back and show Xenoverse and all this in their trailer, and then they show 2019 and Dragon Ball Z. Good old school logo there. They have Action RPG, and they start out with Nimbus and young Gohan. Basically affirming exactly what we were thinking. Old fights with Piccolo. You got Kamehameha against Vegeta. You got King Kai training. Come back, fight Frieza. And of course, deaths of Krillin and all those fun people. And you get to live all those feels again. And of course, go Super Saiyan, it looks like. Yeah. Story of Goku. Be a very interesting game. I mean, just look how nice that cell shading is. This will be a game to get, probably, in my opinion. Of course,
we'll be checking it out, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm still not going to pre-order it.
No, I'll admit I did pre-order Fighter Z. No, I did not pre-order Fighter Z. I take it back. I was holding out on that one only because of how much trouble I've seen from other Dragon Ball games, but I was extremely hopeful.
And it was so worth it, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
We need to play that again.
Yep. You brought it over, and we played it for hours, and we're going to do it some more.
Yeah, play until your wife kicked us out.
Yeah, basically. She
kicked me out.
She likes to do that. Of course, she was gaming behind us anyway, so it doesn't...
At least for a while of it, yeah.
Yeah. All right, next stop.
But last thing, at least that I have listed here. So this weekend marked the demo, as they called it, for Anthem.
Yeah, let's call it a beta test.
It's a beta test. So they call it a demo. I'll admit, it kind of did look like a demo, which is but at that point it'd be a very, very, very tiny demo.
Yeah, it was basically level 10 to 15. You had a few select quests in the storyline that you would do. Yeah, I mean, you're obviously not starting at level 1, so that's a start, right? You had most of what you would expect your avatar to be able to do. Oh, what do they call your suit? A
javelin.
Javelin, that's right. They had some special word for it.
Yeah, so basically what you learn is, a little bit of how the itemization works, various weapons and things you can do with it. There's 4 types of javelins, at least so far in the game.
They only let you play that yellow one right there.
No, actually, once you level up, you can choose one.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that far in the demo. Of course,
yeah. Once you get a little bit
hit
further,
the infinite loading screens, those are kind of hard to continue to play, right?
yeah, we'll come back to the bugs in a minute.
Oh yeah.
Overall, the game, I liked the gameplay.
Yes.
The feel, the movement, at least once you're actually in, and
it felt a lot like Destiny 2. I'll say that.
From what I've seen from Destiny 2 and from what I've seen of like Mass Effect Andromeda, it was somewhere like taking bits and pieces of those two and then adding new stuff.
Yeah. I do like that you had basically infinite grenades and a high-powered precision tracking rocket that was on a cooldown rather than having to take up a weapon slot like in Destiny 2 where you had to...
Actually, it is a weapon slot, but it's a different weapon slot.
Yes, basically.
That missile can actually be exchanged for something else if you find something.
Yeah.
Like laser. I found a laser.
But you can still have your main hand and offhand kind of weapon thing where you can switch back and forth. So I could have a primary machine gun and then swap that out for a sniper rifle, for instance.
Yep.
Yeah, and those kinds of things, it's very much like Destiny 2. I hate to keep comparing it back to that, but it is what it is. They're both very similar.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. The benefit, something that was pretty cool, was the ability to fly. I definitely enjoyed it. It felt a lot like flying one of the airplanes in Battlefield 2. That's kind of what I felt. You had the sense of momentum and a turning radius and all that kind of thing. So it definitely has some controls that take a little bit of getting used to. But
no turning on a dime.
Yes, but realistic nonetheless. So, you're not going to be doing Iron Man crap in these suits. You're going to be flying because...
But you are Iron Man!
in a way, but you're not going to instantly, like, stop, hover, and then shoot straight upward kind of thing. It's not going to do that.
Did it! It takes effort.
Yeah. But based on your ability to play the game, you might actually end up being slightly better than others. And precision shooting, partly your weapon, partly your mouse. Or if you're using a controller, I'm sorry.
And you can definitely tell this game was built for a controller. Yes. It was built for a console.
If you have a mouse that has even just 6 hotkeys on it, you can pretty much play the whole game with just one hand. Hey, don't bring in our raid conversations into this thought. Yeah, I heard that silence.
I could have been coughing.
Yeah. So I'm still not going to pre-order this game.
I'm going to wait for it to come out and make sure that they get the bugs fixed.
Yes, I guarantee there's going to be some launch bugs. And as a matter of fact, BioWare even mentioned it. They are like, yeah, it's going to launch. It's probably going to have bugs. We anticipated that. But, they're going to happen. We just want to focus on getting them corrected as soon as possible. And I bet you anything that's why they did the demo anyway. Garner some additional exposure and work out some of these bugs like the infinite loading screens.
See what comes up most? Yeah.
Can you imagine the hate that would have happened had that been a post-launch problem?
Oh, yeah. Especially considering that particular bug. And if you're not familiar with this one, when you're loading into a area, such as a mission, or when you've completed a mission, you're loading out, you have a load bar along the top and hits about 95% and stops. Yep. And it sits there until you kill the game.
And
now, here's the biggest problem.
Kill the executable in addition to that, and then kill the Origin software. And then
I've never had to kill Origin, actually.
Oh, yeah?
I just had to kill it. I just had to go out and kill the Anthem demo EXE. But, one, it's annoying. But two, if you're getting that when you're completing a mission, you're now disqualified from the experience and loot that you would have gotten.
Yeah, because the game never goes through that part of the cycle.
So anything you could have gotten out of that mission is gone.
Yep.
That's annoying as all get out.
Yes, it is. You experienced that no less than once.
Twice.
Most of the time we had the problem getting into a campaign action or something like that, but
or when they decided to have their arbitrary zone update.
Arbitrary zone update.
Like when we go into that pipe area.
Oh yeah, zoning from one spot to another in the zone. Yeah, I really wish they could make the game a little less ordered off like that.
I'm guessing that I think that's more of a change that was made to make it easier on consoles.
I bet you anything it's a console thing. Sadly,
because if you actually look at how the game loads up, how it starts, and everything goes on as you work through it, it is set up as a console game. Not in it playing on PC. It is set up as a console game.
Yeah.
So when you start up, you don't have a front menu for the game. It's load up and you're in. So I'd assume that there's going to be a character selection somewhere in there or something like that.
Well, we were playing a demo that dropped us at level 10, so
yeah. But I mean, there's no selection in between.
Yeah.
But they could have, if I highly doubt that the full game is going to be much different.
Yeah.
But there's no way to get out. So like when the demo ended, for example, the reason why I'm saying this is it loads up and connects to the service first before you can do anything, and then says, "Oh, the demo's ended," and you're stuck there until you kill the executable.
Yeah, they probably put a few of those things in as hacks to kind of run it as a demo. But
so
the other glaring problem was that there was zero keyboard input as far as typing or communication of that nature at all. They expect you to have push to talk or voice activated chat. That's it. While that might be a good thing, it's not necessarily a great thing for doing things like guilds or friends, any of that sort of thing. Maybe they're just pushing it all off onto Discord or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they have this stuff in game, but I've never tried it. I didn't ever hear it getting used.
The voice activated stuff, yes, but there's no text communication at all.
Yeah, there's no text, but that's the same. A lot of console games are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that just goes right along with the console idea. It's just they built it for console and just happened to make it work on PC.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine 300-400 roster guilds in WoW having nothing but voice communication to work with?
Oh, that'd be insane.
Yeah, not going to happen. If they plan on going anywhere with the game and making guilds and any of these social aspects, they're going to have to concede with some kind of text interface for the PC players. Now, will that trickle down to consoles? Yeah, probably not. So, will it happen? I don't know.
I can find out.
Yeah.
But
hopefully the game will be good enough on its own at launch to merit further play,
Well, as I said, what we saw there and what you're saying, like with the javelins, because everything I saw in there was basically you have the hub and then you have the mission areas.
Yep. They're adding the 16-player social hub called the Launch Bay.
So we'll see how that ends up playing out. The little story we got there was just weird and made no sense because I don't have context of the world.
Yeah. They'll be adding ray tracing and DLSS.
Not surprised.
Not surprised at all. It'll be very nice to have another game that supports some of that NVIDIA tech.
One thing I did like, once, and you didn't get this far, was once you actually hit like level 12 and you're then allowed to choose or unlock a new javelin.
Yeah.
And so the 4 types you have is the Ranger, which is what we were starting with, which is the
Yellow
general the general purpose. You can change the colors.
Yeah, I know. I'm just showing for purpose of illustration here on the picture.
Okay, fine. But there's a second called Storm, which is more. It's built up as like it uses tech to play with the elements. Think of it like a javelin mage.
Yeah, a caster class.
There's one that's this. I forgot the name of it off the top of my head now, which is horrible. I think Colossus or something. And it's just this giant hulking javelin. It'll be your tank. And then there's a very lightweight one that's like very streamlined called, basically a rogue, or it's called a scout.
Yeah.
So there's 4 different kinds, different purposes, different speed. Like the scout one is supposed to be really fast. So, but I don't know how much they really play because the demo ran out before I could even try Storm. I'm sad.
Well, come February, you might not have to worry about that, right?
Yeah, so once the game comes out and we can actually see how it actually plays, who knows, might pick it up. I don't know, it was kind of fun.
Yep. I always take the approach of wait and see. There's very few games that'll merit a pre-order for me, and most of them are the ones that have proven histories of well-rounded, well-patched, well-developed games.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that would be one.
Let's see, the only other pre-order I've got right now is Metroid Prime 4. Which Nintendo has, it's going to be waiting even longer since Nintendo has completely rebooted it. But it's going under Retro Studios, who did the previous trilogy, so
can't go wrong with that.
And they did a really good job on the first 3.
Yeah. And World of Warcraft would be one to pre-order.
Usually.
Hey, all the fun stuff happens on launch day. It's once you hit 12 months of content drought that it becomes a problem.
Yeah, they've gotten better at the very least.
Yep, they're slowly refining. Unfortunately, they're still catering to the masses rather than giving separate paths for elitist jerks like myself.
You poor elitist jerk.
I know, right? Which is a guild, by the way, and I'm not in it, so I'm not saying I'm affiliated with them. I just understand their game, their handle and title. So, all right, enough rambling. Thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you enjoying Anthem with us. I might even live stream some of it if I end up buying it. So definitely stay tuned, check back, hit that subscribe button, do spam that like button, give us some comments as well. Let us know some topics that you might like us to cover, and we will see you in the next one.
Have a good one.